We'll go ahead and get started and let folks continue to jump in. Thank you all for joining us here tonight. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Chris Goodnow. I'm the VP of Programming for AMA Boston. We have a great event lined up for you guys tonight on influencer marketing with our all-star panel of speakers that you see in front of you on the screen here. And I'll turn it over to them in just a minute. But before we do, just wanted to go over a couple of housekeeping things and kind of introduce you guys that may be not familiar with our chapter of who we are here at AMA Boston. So we're going to jump right into the meat of the conversation after I'm done giving my spiel here, and we'll leave about 15-20 minutes at the end of tonight's event for an open discussion question period. So if you do have questions that pop up during the events that you think of, feel free to drop those in the chat and I'll be fielding those throughout the discussion. Otherwise, we'll just ask that you leave questions till the end of the event. For just a couple of housekeeping things for tonight, please do keep your mics muted unless we call upon you to speak. We want to try to avoid as much audio disruption as possible. The event's being recorded, so we'll get that out to everybody that signed up via email in the next few days, so be on the lookout for that as well. And then feel free to take photos or post anything about the event that you'd like on your social profiles. We'd love to see all your guys' posts, so feel free to do that. And if you do, be sure to use the hashtag AMA Boston so that we can find your post and engage with it and reshare it to our page. Real quick, for those of you that may not be familiar with who we are here at AMA Boston, we are the educational networking hub for all New England marketers. We cover the entire New England region and not just the Boston area, as our name suggests. So we have quite a large community. If you're interested in wondering how you can get more involved and join AMA, there's a few ways you can do that. One, we have a lot of volunteer opportunities available. So if you're maybe looking for, in between jobs right now, or you're looking to build your network, or maybe just looking to kind of add some new skills to your resume, we have volunteer opportunities across all of our teams right now. We also do have a few board positions open for the content of our content team, for our volunteers team. There's a few others as well. So if you're interested in that, there's opportunities to get involved on the board or in a volunteer role. If you'd like to learn more, feel free to just connect with one of our board members in the chat. They'll be introducing themselves and you can connect with them and they can fill you in a little bit more about those opportunities. Another way to get involved with AMA Boston is by joining and becoming a member. So we have a lot of really great member benefits. We have member-only programs and networking opportunities. We have our first one coming up this spring. We also offer a lot of exclusive resources and tools on our websites to our members. Also, we offer discounts on some future events. So there's a lot of really great member benefits that we offer, and we have different pricing tiers as well. So that you'll see here, there's maybe you and a group of colleagues are considering building your professional development or building your network and you want to join. We have group rates. We also have student rates if you're a student or a master's program. So definitely consider joining. And if you would like to learn more about kind of what that entails and what that means, connect with one of our board members in the chat again. Just real quick, some of our upcoming events that we have for this month. In 2 weeks from today, we have our Super Bowl ads event with our panel of speakers that you see here in front of you. What that is we're going to be taking a look at some of the all-time greatest Super Bowl ads, as well as some of the top ads from this year's Super Bowl, and kind of just breaking down which ones hit the mark, which ones didn't, which companies represented their brands well. Also just taking a look at digital advertising trends and seeing how those ads kind of align with what we're seeing today. So it's a really fun event. We're doing it after the Super Bowl this year, so everybody has a chance to watch a lot of those ads beforehand and kind of bring any discussion points and their thoughts to the table as well. So that's going to be 2 Thursdays from now, February 17th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. I'll go ahead and drop the Eventbrite link into the chat after I'm done talking. So if you'd like to sign up, it's virtual, it's free. So I'll drop that link in the chat. So if you're interested, you can check it out and read a little bit more about it. And then without further ado, I would like to introduce tonight's speakers. And rather than read from their expert here, I'll go ahead and turn it over to them. And Parna is going to be our moderator tonight, leading our discussion. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and Parna, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Hey, everybody. It's so good to see so many familiar faces. Thank you for being here and sharing the evening with us. Hey. So as you can see, I have two amazing speakers and influencer marketing practitioners. They have had some really interesting career journey that I'm very excited to be able to bring to you guys. So let me do a quick intro and then I'll turn it over to them to do a quick introduction. So many of you know me, I see familiar faces. As I said, I'm Parna. And I am the founder of Brand and Buzz Marketing, and we primarily work with tech companies, helping the founders launch their companies, launch their brand, or even reposition their brands. I'm also the VP of Sponsorship and Brand Marketing for AMA Boston, and I'm hoping after this event, many of you will be joining the family in either board positions or volunteer positions, as Chris outlined. So with that, let's start a quick introduction. Neha, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Neha. I started my career in influencer marketing right after graduation. I worked at Arnold Worldwide, an advertising agency in Boston, where I worked with my two bosses to basically start the influencer arm of Arnold, worked with a bunch of different clients, and then moved over to LA, where I started working at a company called Branded Entertainment Network, which is also a entertainment marketing and advertising company, working on the influencer side on influencer strategy and execution, where I had the lovely experience of meeting Jerica, my co-panelist, and currently I am a senior brand manager at Scopely, which is a mobile gaming company where I work on the Scrabble game.
Excellent. Thanks, Neha. Jerica?
Yeah, awesome. So my start in influencers is a little bit different. I actually started more so in digital marketing right out of college. It was around the time where, you know, YouTube and Instagram were essentially starting to be a thing. And then throughout the years, kind of just started getting a little bit more interested within that space. And then about 7 years ago is when I kind of dug my feet into influencer marketing, when I was at Branded Entertainment Network, as Neha mentioned, is an entertainment marketing and advertising agency. And there is really where I was able to truly kind of develop my understanding and expertise within influencer marketing. Started on like talent management side, all the way to then client facing, putting together, developing strategies for a number of different clients. And then right after that, going to Shark Ninja, and was there for a little bit doing their influencer marketing as well there.
Excellent. Welcome both. All right. So as we all know, and this is probably the reason why so many of you are here today, influencer marketing is a really hot topic. And brands are projected to spend more than 15 billion with a B on influencer marketing this year alone. And we really want to understand what's driving this market growth. So we have the two experts here to share with us, why, what's influencer marketing 101, just in case, we need to do a quick refresher on that. And why every marketer should care. And I think one of the questions that we often see is, when do you introduce influencer marketing into your marketing strategy? So Neha and Jerica, I'm sure, will give us some insights into that, as well as some best practices. And one of the most important things that I hope that we can cover is, how do you get buy-in from senior executives? This is not lead gen always, how do you get the C-suites or even your CMO to say yes to influencer marketing? So with that, let's get started. Jerica, let me start with you. Give us, like, how do you define influencer marketing? There's so many definitions, but as a practitioner, how would you tell us what influencer marketing is?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of different, definitions out there, but kind of quick, high level, basic definition of influencer marketing is essentially it's a type of social media strategy where you're working with individuals who have a large, social influence or have a social influence and social loyal following to really create content where they're endorsing and showcasing your brand and your product within their content as a whole. I don't know if Neha has anything else, but that's pretty basic definition of influencer marketing.
Man, what else? What would you add to that?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the basic definition. I think something that's interesting is a lot of people think influencer marketing is one dimensional. You send an influencer a product, they post it on their channels, hashtag ad, and you're done. But there's so much more that you can do with them. You can use them for content strategy and content creation. They are the ones who know their audience is better than anyone. So they're going to take your messaging and figure out, how do we take this message and bring it to our audiences in a way that will resonate with them and hopefully get them to actually convert and engage. So, you're getting all this different type of content that you can then repurpose for your own social channels. You can repurpose it for ads. You can repurpose it for paid social. There's a lot that you can do with that. You can work with them in partnerships. You can, co-brand, whether it's makeup or different types of food. There's so many different partnerships that you can do with them. So it's not, there's so many different things that you can do with influencer marketing. And that's something that people don't really recognize unless they've really done it and figured out, how can we make this a 360 marketing campaign that's based off of influencer partnerships.
That's a really, really great point. So with that, having said that, Neha, when would be a good time to introduce influencer marketing within your marketing strategy? Because like you said, it's content, it's videos, it's, there's so many different aspects to influencer marketing. So how do you, or when do you kind of talk to your team to say, okay, this is now time to put in a strong, hardcore influencer marketing program into the mix?
I think personally, anytime is a good time to add influencer marketing to your mix. I don't think there needs to be a specific event or anything. You can think of influencers as another point of media. You're taking your message and you're getting it out to different audiences, and there's so many benefits to that. So I would say start as soon as possible, and it should just be a part of your marketing mix and your marketing strategy overall.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah, a little. I was going to say, to add to that a little bit, is just, and I've always said, again, you might be a little bit biased because we're in this space, but for us, I would say like all the time. I mean, it's really important to really work with creators, specifically creating an always on strategy so that you can work with these creators throughout the year and really kind of help build that brand affinity to really kind of keep your brand and your products evergreen and top of mind to their audiences. The big thing with influencers, and one thing that has been like a huge, I would say, change, is not just doing one-offs, but really kind of building a relationship with these creators and kind of collaborating with them. And by doing that, first off, their content's going to come out like super passionate about your brand and about your product. And that's what's something that's super important when working with influencers, making sure that there's passion behind there. And then by them kind of creating content, whether if it's going to be paid, sometimes they might even create organic content for you as well in addition. And so really just making sure that you are working with those creators that are passionate about your brand and your product.
That's a really good point. You got to find the right influencers for your brand. So how do you find them? There is so many of them, right? There's the Kylie Jenners of the world to the I mean, that's who people usually hear about, right? But then you also
Mhm.
have the more micro influencers. So how do you know who would be the right passionate team of influencers to bring in?
I know that Jerica will have a good answer for this because she's, been doing this for so long, but I do think it's important. One thing to just bring up is when you're mentioning like the Kylie Jenners of the world versus those micro influencers, you really want to have a good mix of both, because you do have those bigger celebrities that have that brand name and have huge reach. So you're going to get a lot of impressions, but their engagement is a lot lower. So when you're looking to do an awareness campaign, let's go into those bigger celebrity type influencers. If you want more engagement and hopefully more conversions, that's when you're going to go to the smaller, more mid-tier creators, because while they have less fans, they have much more engaged fans, and you'll see that their engagement is much, much higher.
Mhm.
But Jerry, I'll let you add to that.
Yeah, no, and I think just adding to that, before even starting your influencer program, I think you really want to get a good understanding as far as what your goal is for this. What outcome do you want to see? Do you want to drive awareness? Do you want to drive conversions and sales? Because that's gonna, impact the kind of strategy that you're going to be doing. Then next is figuring out what platforms. There are so many different social platforms, and to be quite honest, I'm a believer of like, if you're starting off doing influencer marketing, focus on one platform and kind of expand from there. Don't try to go on to every and all these platforms. Let's start on one platform and kind of build your audience from there. And so really kind of doing your research to see like which platforms are people talking about your industry. So like example, like beauty, fashion, and hair. Most of that is within Instagram and YouTube. If you're gaming, that's Twitch and YouTube. If it's like technology, that's YouTube and Instagram. So really figuring out what platforms is going to work for you and work for within your industry. And as Neha mentioned, really kind of understanding what size of creators you want to work with. I mean, of course, it also varies with your budget. But myself and Neha, like, we're a huge believer in like doing a hybrid or mix of creator, working with a few of your top kind of tier creators who have like 500 to a million plus following, all the way working to like your mid to smaller tier creators, and having that mix kind of helps you with driving that awareness, but also like driving that engagement and, driving those clicks over and driving traffic to, whether if you're driving to the site or to wherever it is that you are, you want to end up going. And then from there, it's figuring out, okay, once you know exactly like what program you're doing, how you want to do it, figuring out those influencers. The big thing is, one, passion. As I mentioned, passion is so important, because you want to make sure that they're creating content that's going to be organic, not only to them, but also is going to just really make your brand and your product shine within their content. And so making sure that that creator is passionate on your brand. Second, looking at these creators, there's, I guess, a science you can kind of say is you're looking at these creators, figuring out, okay, what does their engagement look like? There are some creators, one of the biggest things that I would say in the past few years has been like top of mind within this space is really making sure that there is no fraud. And so one way, quickly looking at it without using any kind of platforms to kind of help you figure out what fraud is, really looking at, hey, this person has X amount of followers. What is their engagement like? Is their engagement, high, or is it super, super low? And just to kind of give you a gist of like industry standard as far as like engagement wise, when it comes to like Instagram, someone who has an engagement around like 1 to like 3% engagement rate is really good. For TikTok, that tends to be a little bit higher, because TikTok is essentially a platform that's created and set up for having an engaged audience. Around 3 to 9% is probably average. Most of the time you're most likely going to get more than 9%, because that's just TikTok in general. It's just their audience is super engaged within the content. And then with YouTube, you're looking around like 2 to 5% is pretty good engagement. And when you're looking at engagement, when it comes to like Instagram, you really can't see like what are those impressions or what are those views on like a videos on there. So you're kind of basing that engagement off of like follower count versus the views or the impressions. If you can get the impressions or the views on that creator's, you know, content, that's great. You'll be able to get like a true engagement rate, but like just quickly off the top, looking at like the last 10 or 5 posts, see what their follower counts and look at what their engagement and kind of figure out from there as well. And then, sorry, there's a lot. And then once you have those, once you figure that out, you're like, okay, this creator, you know, has great engagement, definitely want to work with them. Also do a quick background check. You want to make sure that they are brand safe and make sure that there hasn't been any scandals behind with any of these creators that you're working with. But also, like, I mean, there's a number of different creator platforms that you can use as well. Like there's a platform such as like Creator IQ, Aspire IQ, Maverick, Julius, Isaiah, Captivate, Dovetail. Like these are just some of creator influencer marketing platforms that a number of different brands and companies and agencies have used to really kind of help as far as finding creators to work with you and your brand.
Awesome. My head was reeling. Nice information. Great. So speaking of platforms, so it appears, and you're the experts here, that TikTok is kind of the platform for like Gen X. I don't think there are too many baby boomers there, but I could be wrong. But I was actually reading somewhere that Netflix was the most followed brand on TikTok last year. And Zara was the most mentioned brand on Insta last year. I'm wondering why it's so different. Is it because of the platform? Is it because of the kind of audience that lives in these different platforms? What drives these top brand engagement in different platforms?
I think at least for TikTok, it has a lot to do with the content. And I wouldn't be surprised if Duolingo is now above Netflix. So TikTok in particular, there have been some brands that have done absolutely incredible content and brand building. Duolingo being one of them. I am obsessed with Duolingo's TikTok.
Same.
I follow it. I watch it all the time. Ryanair also has a very good TikTok presence. So it's the content, and TikTok is such a crazy beast. It has to be the right kind. You have to be following the trends, and it's very difficult because our legal teams absolutely despise TikTok because there's a lot of risk there. You have to be using trending songs you could get cited for. There are trends that may include talking about celebrities or talking about movies, things like that. Your legal team, you have to work with your legal team to find that balance. So yeah, I think TikTok in particular, I think it's the content, and then commenting strategy is very, very big. You'll see that with sporting teams. Well, people will say, hey, I want an NFL team to comment, and then I'll do this. And you have all the NFL team commenting. So I think for TikTok in particular, that's super important for brands.
Yeah, and I think if you think about Netflix and probably when TikTok really started to become super popular is right when the pandemic started. I think pandemic hit and TikTok just like went up, and it was just crazy as far as the content, people joining, people creating content on there. It's also around the time where people were binging on everything you can possibly think of. So I think there might be a correlation there when it comes to that. And then when it comes to Zara, I mean, fashion in general have been really great from the beginning to really include and partner with a bunch of creators across the board, whether they're large or smaller creators. I mean, that's something that they've been doing this for years, and they were like, besides gaming industry, I would say we're probably one of like the first kind of industries to really tap into creators and working with them to create content, whether if it's like challenges, hauls. Instagram is the space when it comes to fashion, especially now that Instagram is now becoming a lot more brand friendly because you have that shoppable, easy way to kind of click and kind of shop and purchase stuff straight from Instagram. So,
yeah, no, that's definitely really, really interesting insights there. So Neha, you mentioned this, I think, as you were talking about, working with multiple influencers. And yes, we need to give them the freedom to write in their own voice, to write in a way that their followers can, will engage with them. Like I know I'm probably like dating myself here, but the only the only influencers that I literally look at are the people who are doing the Amazon influencers, because I think I shop there. Everything comes from there for me. But how do you, so even though we want to give them the freedom to create the content that works for their audience, how do you manage the message consistency? You got to make sure that your brand message is consistent. There's no issues, like you were saying, it needs to go through legal and so on and so forth. But when you're managing like hundreds of influencers for a brand or multiple brands, how do you ensure the consistency while giving them the freedom to write the content as they see fit?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the way that we've done it in the past is it's really simple. It's just a one sheet or, a little kit that we send over to the influencers beforehand. So that would include things like brand do's and don'ts. There was one brand that I had worked with in the past that was a dating app, and they had some do's and don'ts, very obvious. Like you can't have made misogynistic or political or any sort of controversial comments, or have anything like that in your post, or you can't have a competitor, even a logo. If you're working with food, they'll have things that can be shown on screen versus not. That you can work with your team to figure out what those do's and don'ts are. And then we also send them over talking points. So sometimes we'll say, here are your 2 to 3 mandatory required talking points that need to be said. You can say them how you want, but you need to hit these points. And then we have some optional ones that, if it makes sense that you want to throw it in, go for it. If not required. And then we also include just making sure that they have the FTC disclosures, things like that. The way to ensure that this happens is to put it in the contract. Have an amendment or a one sheet in your contract that says here are the brand do's and don'ts. If you do violate one of these and don't, and post without approval, then either we don't pay you or you have to do a make good. So just make sure that it's in your influencer contracts. And that's really how you're going to avoid it, because they want to get paid. They want to continue working with you. And that's not going to happen if you don't, listen. So you give them the guidelines and then you let them go from there.
Good point. Sharika, anything to add?
I mean, Neha said it perfectly as far as really just making sure that brief or checklist that you're giving to them. I know with some other clients as well have given like a quick brief of like, hey, here's a quick little tidbit about this product so that you have like a good understanding. And then here's what we like, the checklist of like what we need you to hit, do's and don'ts of making sure that the product logo is like visible and clear, or making sure that you're not using ridiculous filters that essentially changes the color or the look of the product. So that's each brand and each client that I've had has been different, but really making sure that you have those do's and don'ts, even if it's like a long list, making sure you have everything on there so that you're covered for everything. And then there are times, depending with, there was one client of mine, which was a technology client that I had, and they were very particular. And so we not only just gave them a checklist, but we even set up one-on-one time with these creators to really sit down and kind of walk through their content and walk through like the checklist of like, hey, here's where we really want you to, hit these talking points or hit this brand messaging, say it in your own language, natural, whatever works for you, but we really want to focus in on this specific part of this product. If you have time to do that, that's great. I understand that not many brands or companies have the time to sit down and have that one-on-one conversation with creators. So if you do, great. I definitely advise, by doing that, you're also building a relationship with these creators as well. And they really kind of see that, that they're important as well as you're creating content. Because one big thing with working with influencers, and many you probably have heard, is making sure that you're collaborating with these creators to make sure that it is natural and organic to like their channel.
I think those are really good points, especially relationship and collaboration. Those are always critical no matter who you work with. So really, really great points. So before we take questions, let me just ask one more, Chris, if that's okay. And then I'll ask you, Chris, to kind of share with us some of the questions, if you don't mind. So, you know, in your experience, what would be the best way to get the executives, the C-suites, the CMOs accept influencer marketing as part of the strategy? How do you get their buy-in? Because like brand awareness, this is a very difficult area for buy-in. What's worked for you guys? What tips would you give to us so that, you know, if you're looking to implement this, how do we go about bringing everybody on board?
Yeah, definitely. So to me, the biggest thing is data. If you're doing influencer marketing right, there is so much data and so many learnings that you can get if you track things properly. So that's using different tracking links, using promo codes, having landing pages. If you're really tracking it properly, you can take that data and it goes outside of influencer marketing. So for example, I worked on a brand that's an oral care brand, and you can buy their products in any CVS or Target or anything. And after an influencer campaign, I was able to sit down and tell them, hey, if this influencer said talking point A versus talking point B, if they said talking point A, the click-through rate was this % higher. So let's try to pivot and have the influencers moving forward use this talking point. Or you can see, hey, this type of influencer or this type of content is giving you more engagement or more sales or whatever that is. And you can, you know, in this particular case that I was talking about, we were able to take that information and say, hey, we learned these from influencer. Now you know the talking points that are going to work. We were able to identify the audiences that are actually going to take this and pay for your product. So in your new marketing materials, why isn't this the messaging that you're doing? Or if you have an advertisement, here are the things that people actually care about. So influencer marketing it's relatively cheap, to be honest, compared to other types of media. You have better engagement and click-through rates than a display ad or a banner ad. You're getting better tracking than traditional TV or media. So you're taking all of that, you're able to hyper target and get some data, and then take that data and utilize it within other parts of your marketing mix. To me, that seems like a win all around. It's a nice, easy, also like cheap test almost in what, you know, how can we optimize our marketing as a whole?
Sharika?
Neha said it perfectly.
All right.
I was gonna say I don't have anything else to add there.
That's okay. That's okay. So I'm looking at questions now. There's one from Joanne. I think this fits right in because that was actually an area I wanted to touch on, is the cost. You know, what kind of budget should you have to kickstart your influencer marketing program?
Yeah.
Joanne, thank you for the question. It's a great question.
Yeah, no, I think, again, really figuring out as far as the budget, what to kind of allocate towards kickstarting your influencer plan. It depends what you want your outcome to be, I would say. But in Neha, you might have a different opinion or idea. I would say if you have budget, I would start at least 50K, but I also understand that not many brands have that. So even starting 10K, 10,000, that can, you can work with a good handful of bunch of small and like micro creators and really get them to post a ton of content. I think also a strategy that some of us, I mean, I've used for some brands like it, some brands don't, is making sure that creators are also posting their content around the same time. So whether if it's like the same day or within a short window, so that you can really kind of explode and, hit a large and wide reach all in one short window versus like throughout, like once, there's some brands and some people want content every other week. And so some creators, we were able to make that work, sometimes not. But I would say like minimum 10K. That's my thought. I don't know, Neha, what your thoughts are.
I think 10K is the absolute bare minimum, and you're not really going to see a huge reach just because it is going to be much smaller influencers. But Jerica made a really good point. If you are working with, very micro influencers, but you're working with a bunch of them, if you have them post at the same time, it's easier to see any organic lift or organic spikes because you can look at the timeline and say, oh, this is when we posted and we saw an increase in traffic. There's a correlation there. It's not a perfect science, but that's one way to do it. I personally think 50K should be the minimum, just because you are able to work with a little bit bigger, more mid-tier, and then you can work with more. So that would be my minimum, but we have done campaigns for far less than that and have seen some good lift. You have to just be working with the right people, because there are people out there who can make it work.
I think startups will get a heart attack with that number.
Yeah. Which is why I was like, I just want to make sure that you're aware of, like, it doesn't have to be like, yes, 50K I think is great. Like, I'm there with Neha, but I also understand that there are some brands and some companies that might not have that. So
yeah. Because they'll start with the lead gen campaign, influencers will come way after. So anyway, no, those are great responses. So let's see, we have this is coming from Roger. His question is, what if the product isn't a physical product, but it's more for tourism? So if it's an industry, how do you do that? I think there's this influencer in Dubai, right? Who, I forget his name. It's a husband-wife team that does a lot of the stuff in the Middle East. But anyway, I'll shut up and I'll let you guys answer.
You can definitely you can absolutely do it for things that are not a physical product. Tourism is huge. Dubai in particular has a huge influencer campaign, and it's just sending influencers to Dubai and giving them experiences and letting them have content and post it themselves. I actually did a campaign for the dating app that I was talking about. They have an ambassador. It was a diversity ambassador program that they wanted to have people apply for this program where they could be diversity ambassadors within their community. And we utilized influencers of color, female influencers of color, to talk about the program, talk about what the impact would be and why it's such a great idea. And we had over 1,000 submissions, and one of them actually became one of the ambassadors. It's just about the messaging. As long as you have a good story and you have good messaging, it doesn't really matter what you're promoting.
Chris, am I missing questions? I'm sorry. Do you want to just jump in and let me know if I've missed questions?
Yes, I'm scrolling up a little bit because we had some earlier questions, so I'll try to go down the line here. We had a question from Doug earlier. Are quote unquote reaction videos considered influencer marketing?
I mean, it can be a part of your influencer marketing plan. I've worked with a number of brands where specifically with this, one of the brands that I work with for technology, where they were focusing on like the headphones. And so in the reaction video, making sure that, they were using these headphones in particular within that reaction video. And so there are a number of different ways in which you can organically fit that. And of course, as they were, doing the reaction video, they also, like, some of the people who were reacting were hitting the brand messaging that the brand wanted them to really kind of hit upon.
Yeah, and I think in longer form content in particular, there's different types of integrations that you can do with influencers. So you can have just a shout out where at the beginning of the video, they say something like, hey, this video was sponsored by X brand. They go through their spiel. I know a lot of us probably fast forward through that. It's not the most engaging type of integration. Then you have ones that are a little bit more integrated, where it might be a vlog, or it might be for, you know, if we're using my game, for example, one of the examples of content I would think of is it work with a vlogger who's having a family game night. And one of the games that's included is this Scrabble game. There's different ways and different types of integrations. So reaction videos are totally fine. And there's just, it'll depend on how the creator thinks it's best to bring that to life.
We have another one here from Eugene. This is an interesting one because I actually didn't check the demographics in the room tonight, but Eugene had said that there is almost a 3-to-1 ratio of women to men in tonight's event. So is there anything in terms of demographics that you guys see about women paying more attention to influencers, or maybe kind of caring or providing more attention to influencers?
Good question, Eugene.
That is
nice. Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm just saying hi to Eugene. I haven't seen him in a while. Hey there. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's actually a great question. And that's actually something that has been a trend as far as just like the number of what the demographics on each platform. So for instance, like Instagram has a huge female demographic. I know YouTube used to be female. I think recently they've now, changed to more male demographic. And so again, each platform I've been seeing that there's more of a female audience versus a male audience, but again, just depends on the platforms as well.
To be honest, just in the industry in general, I actually don't really know. I don't know, Jerry, I've never, like, even at events, it's been pretty 50-50.
I was say at events has been 50-50, but if we're looking at like the demographics of like each platform and like what the creators' audiences look like, majority of the time it is female. But again, depends on the platform, because YouTube has been male, Twitch is more male kind of dominant as well.
And I would also think it's your product makes a difference too, as to, who you want to promote your product. So I would think I don't think there is like 100% yes or no to that. I think it depends on your content, your product, who are you trying to reach? So there's all the variations that come with it. But Eugene, great insight and good question. I think Alice, it was Peter, sorry. Peter and Alice had similar questions. Does influencer marketing work better with B2C or B2B products? So it's, is it more consumer versus B2B? Where would influencer marketing best play a role? Peter, I hope I got that question right.
The strategies are definitely very different. I think personally, B2C is a lot easier just because it's a wider range of audiences, and it's, the messaging can be differentiated based off of who you're trying to talk to. If we're doing a B2B campaign, we're looking more at, YouTube, LinkedIn. I think it would be a lot, maybe some podcasts. It would just be a different audience and a different strategy. You can definitely do both. I personally think B2C is much easier.
So speaking of podcasts, so are the podcasters also considered influencers?
Yes. Yeah. At this point, absolutely. Especially with the trend of podcasts are now video. There's so many video podcasts out there. You can listen to it, or you can watch it on YouTube, watch it on Spotify. And influencers, the new thing with influencers actually is they're all starting their own podcasts. So it's just another way to work with them in another avenue. So it's definitely considered influence. Again, influencers is just another type of media. Yeah, honestly.
Chris, have I missed any?
We have one more. I just scrolled by it. Hold on. Peter had asked another good question. Would you recommend an influencer platform, or is it better to work with an agency or even just reach out directly to influencers on your own?
I think it depends on your level of comfort and experience. So if you have some influencer platforms are really great for people who maybe don't have as much experience in just reaching out, negotiating. It's a whole new skill set that you need to learn when handling influencers, and the platforms are really great for not only picking influencers and helping you identify them, but also a lot of them will help you reach out to them, negotiate with them, help with the payments. If you want the best prices, you go directly to the influencers. I know Jerry will speak to this more, but when you're trying to negotiate, you do not want to go through the management companies. You do not want to go through all the hoops, because they all have margins on top of the price that they're giving you. So when possible, and if you're comfortable, reach out to the individual influencers. If you want a scaled, always on campaign and you just need someone to help with the process, definitely go platform or agency to help you with that.
Yeah, definitely align with what Neha's saying. I think in addition to that, I mean, it's the nature of the beast. You're always gonna have agents to kind of help with that. So sometimes you can go directly, and sometimes, you know, you have an agent. And there are some creators, to be quite honest, that I've worked with. It's a lot easier to work with the agent than versus directly with the creators, because there are some that are just a little bit more difficult to kind of wrangle in when you're working directly than when they have someone to kind of handle and manage that for you. So it varies, but I'm a 100% believer in going straight to the influencer directly. You're going to get a better price, and also it's just another way to really kind of build that relationship with those creators as well.
So there's a question from Bob. Bob, thanks for it. Do influencers have to disclose in all cases that they're posting on behalf of their clients?
100.
What are the regulations?
100.
1000%.
There is a lot of rules and regulation that needs to be followed, because I'm in the B2B space and we do a lot with the branded content stuff. So yeah, I realize that, but consumer, I'm sure you have to do much more than what we do from a B2B side. So tell us a little bit about how do you do you work with legal team? How do you know what the regulations are? So educate us.
I mean, essentially, FTC straightforward is very much of like, you need to make sure that your audience knows that you are getting paid to talk about this brand or talk about this product. Or if you're, traveling to Dubai or to Australia, like you're talking, like you are getting paid to go out there to talk about this place or whatever it is. Even if you're sending product, and if it's like PR, you still have to disclose that you were given that for free, and that you are getting, you can't say paid because you're not getting paid. This is free product, but that you got this product for free from that brand. FTC has been like, they've been really strict as far as making sure that people are disclosing. There's a number of different ways. I mean, straightforward #ad is the easiest way to kind of disclose. I've worked with some brands where if it's long form content that we're working on, that we need to make sure that it is verbally as well as written. So written in the description or in the caption, making sure that it says, this is sponsored by whatever brand. And then verbally, like at the beginning saying, hey, this is sponsored by blah, blah, blah. And it got to the point with this particular brand, they're very, very particular as far as, written and verbal, but also making sure that it's said multiple times throughout the video, so that people are aware that this video is, they're getting paid to create this video.
We had another good question here from Roger, kind of a follow-up to his earlier question. And Roger, if you want to jump in after I kind of highlight this here, feel free. What is the best way to handle influencers? For example, for my city client, do I want to be there to show them around, or have a concierge available, or leave them alone?
So we were always taught, Jerica and I were always taught white glove service. They are your talent. You do not want them to go off a year from now and like when the contract is over and say, I had a terrible experience. You are treating them like talent. They're your partners. So, if you are sending an influencer to a city, and Jerica and I have both been to multiple events where we have worked with influencers and been there, you should set up, a time to meet them, walk them through everything, have activities ready for them, but then also give them time by themselves. You do not want to be on top of them or nagging them. So you just have to find the right balance of, hey, I'm here, whatever you need. If it's, I have to run to go get some water or some sushi from your favorite sushi restaurant, I've got you. Or if you just want to be alone and you text me if you need me, totally fine. It's just, you just have to treat them like if your CEO came to town. That's exactly how you would treat them.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I sometimes never recommend just letting them go free and kind of do whatever they want. You want to make sure that you're there with them, make sure that they, as Neha mentioned, kind of talk to them, walk through everything that we need them to do and to post. And sometimes even while I've gone to so many events where I've actually have been the camera person for creators because they might have gone or flown out by themselves because normally they even have someone else with them. And so I've, done that. I even got to the point where I was part of a sketch for one of the creators, which I personally do not like doing, but we had to, you got to do what you got to do to get it done. And so, you want to make sure that, again, white glove service, you're treating them like, they're your talent. So,
yeah. No, I think that's a really good point. You got to treat them like VIPs. And I'm sure you guys feel the same way. Like, I'm a control freak. Whenever I'm working with people like that, like even they want to give them the freedom, you also want to make sure that everything is the way you want to see it, right? It's on message, it's on brand, it's everything else. So like it's really tough. But again, relationship and having the, working with credible influencers, that the end product will actually come out good. I think we have time for one more question. Gosh, time flies when we're having fun. I think I saw this question fly by, ROI. So, we talked very broadly about the different types of campaign, a range of product, a range of budget range. What's the one metrics? What's the ROI? The one piece, I'm sure there's a lot, but what's the one most important ROI that you recommend that we track when we put together our influencer program?
I always recommend everything. That's just me, because I think the more data you collect, the more you can really kind of dig into that and essentially prove to, your bosses, your CEOs, your CMOs, like just how important influencer marketing is. I would say majority of brands normally track, impressions or views, again, depending on your platform. Engagement rate is also something that's really important. And Neha mentioned was tracking your clicks and tracking that driving that traffic. So making sure that you have, not only just clickable data, but links that are trackable so that you can really view and see where that consumer journey. And that's something that with one of my brands that I've worked with, in a technology brand, where we had a bunch of creators create content about this product, and right away, we were able to really kind of find out how much sales a lot of these, creators were driving. But even then, because we had that trackable link, months from when the content went live, there were some creators that were still converting. So it's super important to making sure that you have, trackable links as well. So really kind of getting that click data, as well as if you can do conversions, getting that conversion as well. Anything else? Am I missing anything else? I mean, there's also, when I say data, I mean, like, you're getting everything from like, what is the average view duration? What percentage of people, like, there's so much data that you can collect from these platforms and from the creators to really kind of dig deep. Unfortunately, there's not really a platform that can help with reporting and all that stuff. So a lot of the times it takes hours and sometimes days for you to kind of comb through that data and really kind of figure things out. Like as Neha mentioned, that for one of her clients where you were even looking at content and analyzing the content itself, like who, when they said this, particular brand message, you saw an increase in engagement, an increase in clicks, or when they, talked about talking point B, like we saw there was a decrease in clicks. All of that stuff has been very manual process that myself and Neha have like taken hours and days out of our time to comb through. I think that's something, there are a number of influencer marketing platforms that can help with like the basic data, but really kind of digging deep into and analyzing the content itself. I personally haven't found one yet, so if you guys know of one, let us know.
Maybe that's the next topic to consider, team. Neha, one ROI that is a must.
That is a very hard question because it depends on your overall marketing goal. Mm-hmm. Is this an awareness campaign? If it's an awareness campaign, it's impressions. And then you want to also look if your impressions and engagements, because you want, it's one thing to see the content, but if you're engaging or swiping up or commenting, then it's making a bigger impact. If you're looking at performance, it's click-through rate and sales. So it really depends on your influencer marketing goals should be similar to the rest of your marketing goals. So it should be what you're looking at for banner ads, what you're looking at for your social media. It should be the same. But to me, the best thing to look at is just correlations, as Jericho was saying. What is it that's driving these different thing, what's driving the clicks, what's driving the engagement, what's driving the sales. That to me is like the most interesting and exciting part that you can get from influencer marketing.
Excellent points, Neha, Jericho. It has been a privilege to have hosted this conversation with the two of you. Thank you all for joining and for your wonderful questions. And over to you, Chris.
Yeah, thank you guys. This was a fantastic conversation, and I think everybody here appreciated it. So if you want to connect with any one of our speakers tonight, feel free to give them a search on LinkedIn and connect and to chat more. As a reminder, we'll be sending out the recording to this to everyone who signed up via email, so be on the lookout for that in the next few days. And then I also dropped a link in the chat to our events page. So we have our next event on, February 17th coming up. Feel free to register for that. It's a free virtual event. And we'll have our March events coming out the next week or so. So be on the lookout for those as well. But that is all from me. Thank you all again for joining tonight, and have a great rest of your day/evening. Take care, everyone.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Thanks.
See ya.
Bye.